The sun was a rumor, a weak orange glow trying to burn through a thick blanket of jungle mist. This wasn't just any jungle. This was the world as it used to be, 65 million years ago. Enormous ferns, bigger than houses, dripped with morning dew, their leaves creating a dark green ceiling high above. The air was thick and heavy, smelling of damp earth, strange flowers, and something else, something ancient and wild. It was the kind of place where you felt watched, where every shadow could hold a secret or a monster. This was the stage for the most ridiculous, most dangerous race ever conceived. Strange shapes loomed in the haze. They weren't just trees. They were the crumbling remains of a forgotten city, with stone archways and broken walls tangled in thick woody vines. Who built them? Nobody knew. Now they were just silent spectators to the madness about to unfold. Volcanic rocks, black and jagged like broken teeth, littered the muddy ground. Steam hissed from cracks in the earth, hinting at the planet's molten heart bubbling just beneath the surface. It was a landscape designed by chaos itself, a proper test of nerve and machinery. Suddenly a sound tore through the primordial silence, not the shriek of a pterosaur or the bellow of a distant sauropod. It was a noise from another time entirely, a deep, guttural growl, followed by a series of sharp, angry pops and crackles. It was the sound of a high-performance engine, waking up and clearing its throat, ready for battle. This wasn't just any engine. It was the heart of a machine built for speed and defiance. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, the mist swirling as if disturbed by this alien roar, a challenge thrown down against the dawn of time itself. And then another engine answered. This one was higher pitched, a furious, screaming wail that sliced through the heavy air like a razor. It was the cry of a different kind of beast, one born of Italian passion and flamboyant design. The two sounds echoed off the ancient ruins and the volcanic cliffs, a mechanical duet that promised violence and spectacle. The ground trembled slightly, not from an earthquake, but from the sheer power contained within these two metal predators. The prehistoric gauntlet was about to begin. Let the chaos commence. First, the German. A Porsche 911 Dakar, but not just any Porsche. This one was a brute, painted in a serious, no-nonsense shade of gray. It sat high off the ground on knobbly, all-terrain tires, its body protected by black plastic cladding and rugged skid plates. It looked like a 911 that had been sent to a military boot camp and came back ready for war. On its roof, a rack held extra fuel cans and a spare wheel, because in this jungle, calling for roadside assistance was not an option. It was a tool, a precision instrument for surviving the impossible. It wasn't here to look pretty. It was here to win. Then its rival, the Italian show-off, a Lamborghini Huracan Sterrato painted in a color so bright and yellow it seemed to hurt the eyes. It was all sharp angles and aggressive lines, a supercar that refused to be sensible. Like the Porsche, it was lifted with beefy tires and protective arches, but it wore them with a different attitude. It had extra rally lights bolted to its nose, as if to say, "Not only will I beat you, I will blind you while I do it." The Sterrato was pure theater, a raging bull let loose in a world of dinosaurs. It was loud, arrogant, and utterly brilliant. The track ahead was a nightmare. It wasn't a road, it was a suggestion of a path carved through the wilderness. It snaked through muddy swamps that could swallow a car whole, then climbed over treacherous ridges of slippery volcanic rock. The route twisted through the skeletal remains of the ancient city, with narrow gaps between crumbling stone walls that left zero room for error. Every corner was blind, every straight was littered with obstacles, and every shadow could be hiding something with very large, very sharp teeth. This was not a place for the faint of heart or the poorly suspended. And the inhabitants were not friendly. This was their home, and they didn't appreciate the noise. From the deep jungle came the sounds of creatures that had ruled this planet for millions of years. The ground would occasionally shake with the footsteps of something enormous moving in the distance, a Tyrannosaurus Rex on its morning stroll. Closer, in the undergrowth, smaller, faster things were stirring, their sharp, intelligent eyes following the two strange, noisy intruders. The race wasn't just against each other, it was a race against the entire Cretaceous period. The race began with a spray of mud and a deafening roar. The Lamborghini, with its four-wheel drive system, shot forward, its V10 engine screaming in defiance. It immediately hit a deep puddle, sending a tidal wave of brown water arcing into the air. The Porsche was right behind it, its flat-six engine thrumming with a lower, more purposeful growl. It took a wider line, its rally-bred suspension soaking up the bumps with incredible poise. They slid around the first corner, inches apart, their headlights cutting through the gloom like twin pairs of angry eyes, a ballet of mechanical violence. Then the welcoming party arrived. From the dense ferns on either side of the track, a pack of Utah raptors burst forth. These weren't the scaly lizards of old movies. They were covered in shaggy, bird-like feathers, their heads darting with terrifying intelligence. They were the size of wolves, but with a sickle-shaped claw on each foot that could slice through steel. They ran with astonishing speed, their sharp chirps and hisses cutting through the engine noise as they closed in, flanking both cars with predatory intent. This race had just become a hunt. One raptor, bolder than the rest, leaped onto the Lamborghini's rear deck. Its claws scraped uselessly against the engine cover as it snapped its jaws, trying to find a weak spot. The driver, with a flick of the steering wheel, threw the car into a wild power slide. The tail swung out, and the raptor was flung off, tumbling into the thick undergrowth with an indignant squawk. The Porsche driver saw this and swerved hard, dodging another attacker that lunged from the shadows. The raptors were smart, coordinating their attacks, trying to herd the cars into a trap. The cars roared up a steep incline, tires scrabbling for grip on the loose volcanic rock. At the crest, they launched into the air, soaring for a heart-stopping moment over a deep gully. They landed with a bone-jarring crash, suspensions groaning in protest but holding firm. Through the trees, they could see it. The colossal shape of a T-Rex, its massive head turning slowly as it registered their noisy passage. It let out a deafening roar that shook the very air, a king announcing his displeasure. But they had no time to be awestruck. The raptor pack was still right on their tails. The Porsche driver was running out of road. Ahead, the path was blocked by a collapsed ruin, and the pack of Utah raptors was closing in, funneling him towards the dead end. The Lamborghini had taken a different, lower path and was out of sight. It looked like the end for the German machine. But the driver saw something, a plume of steam rising from the ground, periodically shooting a jet of boiling water into the air. A geyser. It was a desperate, mad idea, but it was the only one he had. He floored the accelerator, aiming directly for the steaming vent. He timed it perfectly. Just as the lead raptors lunged, the geyser erupted with a mighty hiss. A massive column of superheated water and steam blasted upwards, creating a temporary wall right in front of the pursuing pack. The raptors shrieked in surprise and pain, stumbling back from the scalding spray. It bought the Porsche precious seconds. The driver wrenched the wheel, sliding the car through a ridiculously narrow gap in the ancient stone ruins, a space no wider than the car itself. The wing mirrors scraped against the stone with a piercing screech, but he was through. The raptors, blocked by the geyser and too large for the gap, were left behind, chirping in frustration. The Porsche burst out of the ruins and onto a wide, grassy plateau. In the distance, the yellow Lamborghini was already there, parked and steaming gently. The race was over. They had both survived the Gauntlet. They rolled to a stop at the edge of a towering coastal cliff overlooking a vast turquoise ocean. And there, waiting for them, was the prize. It was a Ferrari F12, its glorious red paint, gleaming under the prehistoric sun as if it had just rolled off the production line. It was an impossible, beautiful sight, a reward worthy of the insane challenge they had just completed. As the drivers got out, their legs shaky, a huge shadow passed over them. They looked up. Soaring on the thermal updrafts from the cliff was a magnificent pterosaur, its leathery wings spanning the width of a small airplane. It circled once, letting out a long, creaking cry that sounded almost approving. It was as if the ancient world itself was acknowledging their incredible feat of driving. What a day, what a race, what a completely unhinged, brilliant adventure. Now, if you enjoyed this madness, do the right thing. Find your favorite creators and show them some support so they can keep making more.